Greetings, I am Doragons Kishu, Paladin and Doragon Rider. This is episode 19 of Doragons Domain, Doragons Faerun. It's been a while since I've done a vlog and I felt like I wanted to get another one up. Just a little bit of my history, because for those that don't know, I wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons when I was younger. I was very shy and I didn't have a lot of friends, and the ones that played D&D, I wasn't connected at all to people that played D&D. And so when I got in my later teens, I was tired of waiting for that opportunity. It felt like it was the best game in the world, and then I'd never played, and just from what I knew of it. And so I decided, well, I'm not a big reader. I'm going to have to run a game in order to play a game. So I read the basic rules and the expert rules as opposed to advanced Dungeons and Dragons, just because I'm not a really big reader. I tend to get sleepy when I try to read. So I played for 2 or 3 years in my teens. I was Dungeon Master, and then I played again in my late 20s. And I've always homebrewed everything because I've never been a module person, partly because I am not a big reader. And a lot of those things I feel like you need to really learn the material, and it just wasn't my thing. Plus I like being creative. I love creating homebrew. And what happened was then I played World of Warcraft from 2006 to 2011. In 2017, I started to become interested in Dungeons and Dragons again, and I picked up the player's manual, 5e player's manual, learned how to play it. Got a guy I knew to start a group, and I supplied him some of the homebrew material because he didn't have time to make the material. The group didn't go so well. We played once in a while, but there were a lot of cancellations, and it was pretty good about 1/3 of the time. So sadly, it didn't really work out. Not all groups do. And then I bought the Dungeon Master Guide and started to familiarize myself with the 5e Dungeon Master rules. Started a group with a couple people. It was going well, and then stepped away from social media for like 15 months. Just life. And then but during that time, like about 12 months ago, I started a campaign with a player, and it's just a single player, but I play a lot of NPC characters, several that are actually in the group. They just don't really make the big decisions, or I roll to see how the player makes, is the leader. In 2017, I started getting on Twitter. I started being a player in a group, and I started to make lots of homebrew content in these videos and things like that. But in 2018, I'm forgetting it's 2019 now, that I started to create this campaign using a lot of the homebrew stuff that I'd created in 2017 for a campaign, my current campaign. But during that time, I'd always been, first going way back, I'd always been interested in Waterdeep. It just sounded like an amazing place, City of Splendor, right? So I started to figure out a way to try to slowly incorporate it into my world. One of the ways that I do this is I have a material plane. There's basically 6 continents. There's a little one also, and then there's like a demi-plane that's kind of part in material plane, part not. So what I did is I just decided that there was my material plane, and then there was Faerun. So it was 2 material planes, and somewhere in the middle was the Underdark. So you could go to the Underdark, and you could travel from there to the other plane, or you can figure out a way, of course, to travel plane to plane, material plane to material plane, if you will. So I was a little intimidated by Waterdeep because it was so big. It's huge, and so I just slowly started to enter it. Initially, it was I can't remember the specific reason why we went there, but I do know that initially the group would go there on occasion to go shopping. My particular group is very story and politically involved. They're not treasure hunters so much, though they have come into treasure from killing things and whatnot. Yeah, so slowly they got from. I created this little one of the quarters, like the northern market or whatever. I created my own version of it, and they kind of would go there and they'd shop. And because what I found is that if you're not going to get a bunch of treasure from killing dragons, you need to be able to purchase certain things, like +1 swords and things like that. At first, not really high level stuff. Another thing that I did was really, after time, they started going back and forth there a little bit, connecting with some of the people there. One of the things that I did, there was a really helped to really be a seed to a lot of future campaign stuff. Was I created there was a casino, an expensive casino there, and I created this tournament, and it literally had like 100 people in it. Most of her group was in it. People she's met along the way were in it, and then enemies she met along. It was also a neutral zone, which meant even like you could even have devils show up. In fact, there were, I think, devils, but nobody could. It was a neutral zone. Nobody could mess with each other, you know. So you brought in some enemies of theirs, brought in future enemies. It led to, and then I had a particular card game that I did that made it workable. I think they each started out with 10,000 gold, and then the top 3 of each table. There's 10 at each table, and top 3 of each table would move forward, and boom, boom, boom. And in fact, maybe I'll probably be more detailed about it sometime on a post or whatever. Yeah, so this was an awesome thing that really made for a lot of future campaign stuff, and it was also an opportunity for the group to kind of Waterdeep almost became a vacation spot, because in their own material plane, you know, they were quickly becoming protectors of the land, one of the 6 lands that I had created. Further down the road, something that I did is I brought the Mass Lords, Waterdeep Mass Lords, into into the fold, if you will. In fact, they had met one at the tournament, the card tournament. So one of the Mass Lords approached the group at one point when they were in there and wanted to hire them to do a job for them. And this was a cool little thing that I created that really felt kind of like could be a module. It's called something like the White Skull. There was a thieves guild called White Skull, and there was not supposed to be any thieves guild in I can't remember the reality of what's written in the literature about Waterdeep, but I will say in my Waterdeep, there's no thief guilds allowed. They're very hard on crime, so they hired the group to investigate that. That's one thing that happened. Later on, it was kind of interesting. Later on, I had a high wizard that they had been involved with to a degree, but it was higher than their level. So I also created a group called Protectors de la Moon. It was a group that had used to exist and then dissolved, and they were like protectors of the land in regards to Faerun. They had disappeared years ago, but the group had met one of the old members from it, who was like a mercenary wizard at this point. He teleported people places, he did all kinds of stuff, high level magic stuff. And anyway, they kind of became friends with that guy, and over time they met more of the Protectors de la Moon. Protectors de la Moon came back into existence, so now they exist in Faerun. And that's another cool thing, because they sometimes ally with them, or they work for them, or they work with them, and that created a whole other cool thing. So so Protectors of de la Moon were located in Waterdeep. And then, like I said, they were getting hired by one of the Mass Lords. They've been doing different projects. And that's also a way for them to get money, because they just do a lot of stuff that doesn't make them a lot of money. So I was just kind of trying to find ways for them to have the kind of money you should have at level, 7, 8, 9, 10, and beyond. So I just wanted to do a quick video talking a little bit about Doragons, Faerun, some of the things that I've done to, I know what I was going to say, the wizard that they ran into and they became friends with, at some point, he didn't really have a home, at some point he wanted a home, kind of, so he ended up purchasing this old wizard's tower. It was in the middle of Waterdeep. I forget what it's called. It's actually in one of the areas. And he purchased it and turned it into a tavern on the bottom floor, teleportation chamber on another floor, like an empty room full of cots on another floor. And another floor had all these bedrooms for the people that are in my players group. So anyway, every now and then they'll go there and they'll operate from that point. That's been a really cool thing. It's funny because when I was doing that, the Wizards of the Coast started coming out with these Waterdeep modules, which I've purchased both Waterdeep Dragon Heist and Waterdeep Dungeons of the Mad Mage This is, I think, for the levels 1 through 5, levels 6 through 20. Like I said, I'm not a big reader, but the material looks so good. Really like Chris Perkins, and it's cool that Matt Mercer also is getting some consulting. I think he did it with the villains. Anyway, I'm not like I bought Tomb of Annihilation because it sounded so cool, but I haven't read it. I also found myself hesitant to read it. Like, God, I want to be a player in this, so I kind of didn't read it. I've actually bought Matt Mercer's book also, that he published or had published, and I kind of looked through it, but I haven't used that. Now that I don't know if I'll actually ever use that. I might give it away, or because it's really good. But I create my own stuff, and it's hard for me to use a resource book like that. But I wanted it, and I wanted to support him too. Yeah, so I haven't. The same with the Waterdeep. But I started reading the Waterdeep one, the first one, the Dragon Heist, and I just stopped myself because God, I want to be a player in this. Let me go give it to somebody to run me through it. Anyway, I've got those books. But it was interesting because I didn't know about this, but in the Dragon Heist, spoiler alert, I guess, a little bit about Dragon Heist. Maybe not such a big spoiler, but there's some stuff in Waterdeep Dragon Heist that have to do with characters getting their own tavern or something. I had not known about that when I was having my wizard get this tower, and it was kind of funny timing, but. Anyway, like I said, just kind of want to touch base on, talk about a little bit about my incorporation of Waterdeep into my campaign, and I might do a post with more specifics about the different things, Protectors of the Moon, or but it also maybe just gives you guys some ideas and some inspiration. So I will leave it at that. I hope this isn't too long, and I will see you on Twitter.